All right, everybody, welcome to our first edition of High Street Legends. You're probably wondering, who am I? Who's the other guy? But you definitely know who Darwin Cook is. Cook, what's going on, my good brother?
What's up with you, Jay? What's up, Mountaineer Nation?
All right, High Street Legends, of course. So we're going to kick it off, folks, just talking all things West Virginia sports, not just football, basketball. You know, we're some rifle champions. We talk baseball. We've got some great guests for you, two of my good friends. So, fellas, let's just go ahead and get it started. We got a big game coming up this Saturday.
Yes,
All right.
sir. Yes, sir.
Week one, baby. I've talked a lot of shit. Hoping I don't gotta take it back. But if there was a year to do it and start fresh, man, it feels like, this is the time to do it, man, because we got a team, brother.
Great
got
team.
Got a team, got a quarterback. Again, another year in the system. How we feel about Neil, fellas? Like I got some juice with him this year, Cook rolling his eye. How we feel about Neil coming into this game, especially this Penn State game?
It's a make or break year, I believe, but they extended him last offseason. Man, if we don't finish in the top three in the Big 12, I say it should be looked at.
Very interesting. I think I'm loving Neil, like what we've seen this offseason. We've talked to our good friend Ryan Decker quite a bit, and he's given us the lowdown. Neil's got the goatee going. He's feeling rugged, feeling rough. He's overused the word undervalued. And I feel like the one thing that's been a constant, even through Neil's bad years, if you take away last year, the players are always on his side. We've heard that from players. We've heard that from Ryan Decker himself, who's right there talking, to everybody who matters in Morgantown. So that feels very important as well. So I feel really good from the aspect of like this, we talk about players having breakout years. This feels like Neil's coaching breakout year, amongst being in the P4 now.
I would agree with that too. I mean, I definitely Neil kind of leaning into that underdog role the past 2 years, especially. So I'm gonna put the cat out of the bag. I'm a betting man, so I'm looking at the spread, and it's 8.5.
8.5? Come on, man.
8.5
In Morgantown.
is
In
very
Morgantown.
disrespectful. Very disrespectful.
I mean, it's fair. I believe it's fair. Now, if it was 13 points, I would definitely take it. I got the Mountaineers winning the game, but 8 points we need a little bit more points because they're ranked top 10 and we're not even in the top 25.
I look at it as Vegas kind of bullshit a little bit, honestly, because 8.5 says you wanted to make it a one score, but you also wanted to make it a two score, but you didn't. You know what I mean?
Right.
So I think they kind of. I'm definitely taking the points. I can promise
I'm
you
not
that.
mad at it. I will say I feel good about, I guess you can say, what we've returned on defense. I know we got questions in the secondary, and I want to ask Cook because, being the guy who's from the secondary, we've gotten some information on who's there, what it's going to look like. We're slowly, surely figuring it out. But, how are you feeling from a defensive standpoint heading into the season? And, I think typically we know Penn State for being a team that's going to run the ball. They have extraordinary running backs out there. But we don't know much about their wide receiving core, but they have this quarterback that we've heard about. We've seen firsthand it last year. So from a secondary perspective, how are we, fit to go against a Drew Aller?
So I say this first game, we're gonna see what we're made out of. Because they're gonna run the ball. They're gonna be physical, playing that Big Ten ball. Our secondary, I'm not too worried about it because we do have Aubrey Burks, which I think is one of the better safeties in the country. Anthony Wilson as well coming back, another starter from last year. And the corners is a question mark, but we did go through the transfer portal and got a few of those. So if we can get Jacoby Spells back healthy and in a rotation, that will do wonders for the program. He's been there for about 3-4 years, stood through the fire. He's a leader of that team, I'm sure. Vocal leader from American Heritage, real prestigious high school. So he's a dog. We just got to get him on the field. So I think he's a big piece. If we can get Jacoby Spells back healthy, performing, I think that'll do wonders for us.
I see. I think though this game, if I'm gonna be honest with you, if I'm watching this game, and unfortunately or fortunately, depending on your outlook, it's at 10 a.m. my time. Crazy. If I'm watching this game, right, dog. I'm watching this game Saturday. If I'm rooting for our defense to be making more than just one or two timely stops, we've lost. Like,
Right.
like this game has got to be their best on offense. Drew Aller, Penn State's gonna do what they do, and then our best on offense. And it's like being at home, we get that timely stop. I'm not expecting it to be like 47-41, but I do expect
No,
it to
by
be
no means. Yeah.
like 34, 31. I could
So,
see it.
and I
27.
I don't know if this is even in the 30s. I think this is the winning team scores 28 max, it feels like, because are there going to be enough possessions? Because we know Penn State's going to run the ball. We're going to run the ball. WU is going to run the ball. So are there even going to be enough possessions to get us to, the 30s? Unless there's turnovers that, turn into touchdowns immediately, I find it hard to see, the winning team scoring more than 28 points in this game.
You can make the argument this is the biggest game that at home in the Neil Brown era.
For sure. No question.
Yeah.
They're calling it the biggest opener since '98. So this does feel like a big one. It feels like a big one.
I think the only thing that would stop, I'm picking West Virginia and I'm taking them. But the only thing that would stop me from being like full blown if it was a night game and Cook, you played it. Like we've been in the crowd in it, but Cook, you've played in it. What is that? But actually, let's talk about both, right? Like, what's it do like a noon game? You know what I mean? But it's the first game of the season versus like a night game. Like you still juice? Like what's that like?
I want to add though, Cook. I want to add. Does it also make a difference? You're playing someone who hasn't been to Morgantown.
Yes.
Okay.
So I would say noon games is typical, just regular Saturday noon games. But when you plan a night game, especially a powerhouse program, you juiced up because they coming in your house and it's at night. The fans they've been tailgating all day. So they juice, from the start. Like you're not going to run into the stadium and there's going to be spaces open. Like everybody is there. It's nighttime. It's a Morgantown. The lights. It's different. So what I can, a game that I played in that's similar to this, I would say the LSU game. When they came to Morgantown night, they had one of the best defenses I've probably ever seen in my life. The Honey Badger, Eric Reed, Claiborne, Arden Key, man, they had a squad. And just that environment, it was different. Like it just felt different. You just had energy. In that game, I believe I had a concussion in the third quarter, and I did not realize it to the end of the game. Wow. So it's 2 minutes left. I'm on the bench. I'm with, our frat brother, Ian Smith. I think Terrence is on the other side of me. And then I'm just telling them, I'm like, bro, at halftime, bro, we gonna come out, we ready to go. They was like, bro, what is you talking? Like, Ian, he mad because this is senior year. He's like, what are you talking about, bro? Like, you playing right now? I'm like, no, bro. We gonna smash in halftime. We got him. They was like, Cook, look at the score. It was the fourth quarter with 1 minute left. They was like, hey, Courage, come get him, come get him, come get him. They checked out. They checked out. Like, they found out that I had a concussion. So I really played from, like, the third quarter all the way to the end of the fourth. Don't remember anything.
Wow. Sheesh.
It was a physical football game. So
I bet.
So yeah. That's a story. That's a story. Everybody know that story too.
Yeah, we gotta revisit that one right there.
No, man. I gotta ask you guys, when you look at this team, what is the position group you're most excited about? I think it's the easy answer to either say quarterback or even wide receiver or running back. But for me personally, I'm excited for the linebacker core. You're getting a Josiah Trotter, who you've been waiting to see now, at least Mountaineer fans, for 2 years now. You finally get to see that. You got Ben Cutter coming back. You have a group that you feel like is going to be very, very trusted and very well put together. And I'd be remiss if I didn't mention, Cook's got Trey Lathan. So like
I was gonna say, I'm like
I wasn't gonna forget him. So I really think those three could be, one of the best linebacker cores in the country. Me personally, I'm really excited to see that group. I also think that is the deciding factor in this game between Penn State.
See, I think, well, first, let me get the new homer out of me. Cole Taylor's going to have a great year this year. He's our best receiver on the offense. And I'm sorry, he is. And we don't go to the beat to his drum, but if Cole Taylor catches over 50 balls this year, West Virginia had a great season. And he's from Grand Junction, Colorado. Secondly, but most importantly, you said it's the obvious answer with the quarterback position being
fair. I'm not mad.
But it's the only answer, though. It really is the only answer. We go to the tune of Garrett Green's drum. Are you feel me? So, like, if he has a good season, we win 9 to 10 games. If he has an average season, we sneak in and maybe win 6 into a bowl game. If he has a bad season or gets injured, we don't make a bowl. It's as point blank in the period as that. And so, for me, yes, these other positions are intriguing, but if Garrett Green isn't Garrett Green literally every single week, or at least 9 out of 12 of those weeks, we're talking about a very lackluster football team.
True. And I want to talk about a position that nobody's talking about is the corners. That's the most exciting position because when we get transfers, you never know what we're going to get. We got a Rasul Douglas before, a Beanie Bishop before. So we got 2 or 3 guys that may be that NFL caliber. So if they turn out to be anywhere near those guys, watch out.
All right, fellas, before I kick it to our interview, in the spirit of me having a fantasy draft tonight, if you were picking number 2 in a PPR 10-team league, who would you take?
What's that? PPR 10-team league?
Points per reception.
Points per reception. Fantasy football.
I feel like Christian, I don't like taking the obvious answer. I feel like Christian McCaffrey I feel like people shy away from him at 1. I feel like I've seen a lot of people shying away from him at 1 and him sliding to 2. So it feels like he's the obvious person to take at 2. But I've been really big on just, man, it's tough. It feels like an open play this year. If people are going to take Christian McCaffrey first, you got to take Justin Jefferson, like the mocks are saying.
Sam Darnold's throwing the ball. I'm throwing up the 2. I'm going cheetah. I'm going cheetah. Come on now.
I'm mad at it.
I just wanted you to confirm.
That's the wrong answer, though. Because this is the thing. We saw Justin Jefferson still have an amazing season, not even playing close to, not even barely 10 games last year. No issue with drafting.
Look, you play fantasy?
Yeah, for sure. I play fantasy. So I'm thinking my number 2, if he's there at number 3, he's a definite lock. My number 2 is St. Brown, bro.
I'm on.
St. Brown.
I'm not mad at that.
I wasn't familiar with his game, bro.
I'm not mad at that.
And then, but I like seeing his dad. Okay, he a bodybuilder. He like the body, so he's strong, bro.
I'm not mad at that.
And then I watched his tape. I'm like, he don't really move like a receiver, like none of that stuff. Yeah. So I'm like, but he nice, break tackles,
he's
hands. Tough. So I'm going St. Brown. If St. Brown lasts to pick 3, I'm going St. Brown.
Right.
That's what I needed right there. All right, folks, my guys. Let me get some predictions from you guys before we get out of here. West Virginia, Penn State this Saturday. I think we're all taking West Virginia, and let's get a score.
You go first, Ike.
Oh wow, so much pressure on me first, you assholes.
Hey.
So I told you guys, winning team scores 28 points in this game. I think even odd things happening, missed field goals or made field goals, 29 maybe. I'm going to go W 28, Penn State 24.
Gotcha. I'm going Penn State 21, WVU 24. It's going to be a probably last minute field goal, and then we stop him from scoring.
Okay.
Give me old gold and blue in overtime. 37-34, old gold and blue. Cue up Country Roads.
What was that score?
37-34, overtime.
Okay.
Okay.
Cue up Country Roads and cue up my good friend On Deck with Ryan Decker coming to you guys right now.
Ryan,
This episode is brought to you by DeVere Sport. Partial sales and proceeds from the DeVere Sport collection benefit the Good Sports charity to help provide uniforms, equipment, and more community programs in need. So visit devere.com. That's DeVere, DIVIRI.com. All right, friends, welcome back to High Street Legends. We've got a special guest. We're on deck with my good friend, Ryan Decker. Decker, what's going on, buddy?
Another day in paradise out here in the great state of West Virginia, guys. How are you all doing?
Yes, sir. Amazing. Always.
Always happy to have you, brother.
Beautiful day in the mountains, fellas.
Yeah.
Let's get right to it. We know you've been busy, Decker. All right, so just give me some of those impressions you're getting from camp right now.
Yeah, so right now, I think things overall trending in the right direction. It sounds like overall Neil Brown and his coaching staff happy with where things are. I know coming out of the scrimmage on Saturday, there were some things that the coaching staff wanted to see tightened up. We can get into that if you guys want to. But overall, I think the impression is this team is about where they need to be at this point in the preseason to be in a good spot heading into that August 31st season opener. But, the term undervalued, it keeps getting thrown out there by Neil Brown. The rankings just came out this past week. WVU receiving votes, but not ranked in the AP top 25 or the coaches poll. So that chip on their shoulder that West Virginia teams always seem to have, certainly there and present this preseason for sure.
That's what I love to hear. If we got a chip on our shoulder, I know we're gonna have a good season.
Yep.
And I love to hear it.
I'm curious, Decker, only from the standpoint of, I kind of asked before we got on the call. I'm seeing, the goatee on Neil Brown now. That's not how he was necessarily introduced to us. The voice is kind of deepened a little bit. It seems like it's just not the fun uncle that came to West Virginia. It seems like now he's really in it. It's the undervalued thing of, embracing it. And now he's the angry grandpa, even though he's still relatively young. But what is it? Because it feels like a complete mood change for Neil Brown almost.
Yeah, I think it's two things. One, just kind of the dog days of summer that you're seeing in not just football when you've got these grueling weeks of preseason practices and fall camps and stuff like that, but you're seeing it in baseball and other sports too. It's just kind of that time of year. The other thing is, though, this just kind of occurred to me, I think. He said on Monday that this is the hardest week, the most physical week, a big prove-it week that his team is going to have throughout the entire season, the most physical that they will be at any point in the year. And maybe his demeanor was just matching that. He wants to show that he's being that intense, 24/7 on the field, off the field. And maybe that was a subliminal message, so to speak, there on Monday, that his team needs to kind of match that intensity, especially coming off a scrimmage where, again, he saw some positives out of all three phases, also saw some things that he didn't like out of all three phases. Consistency was a word that was brought up. He wanted, especially that defense, I think, and the offense as well, to be more consistent from start to finish. The defense didn't have that energy the whole way through. I think there were some things in the offensive game that he didn't like as much, but there were some positives there on Saturday as well in that first scrimmage of the year. So I think that might be it more so than anything, at least on Monday. And that's kind of the first time, at least this year, he's been a little surly. I think he's a little not animated, not antsy, but just you could tell there was a little bit of extra oomph to him there on Monday. I think he was just really mirroring that intensity that he wants his team to have this week and throughout the rest of fall camp and getting into practices here leading up to August 31st.
Man, Ryan be getting me fired up, man. Goodness gracious, man. Ryan can have his own podcast by himself. I watch that every week. But you was talking about the scrimmage, and I definitely want to see what players stood out in that scrimmage. Was it the cornerbacks? Because I know that's going to be a tough spot for us. And I also want to ask the question about C.J. Donaldson. With his experience being a tight end, are we using him in a pass game more this year? Are we lining as a receiver?
Yeah, so let's start with the scrimmage here. So that was a closed scrimmage. Media wasn't there, but one of the West Virginia University athletics staffers was there and was putting out some numbers and things. So here's what we know. Garrett Green and Nico, they each threw 2 touchdowns in that game. And then quarterback Ryder Burton also threw a touchdown. Jaden Bray, Hudson Clement, Justin Robinson, the top 3 wideouts, likely on the outside, they were among the wide receivers who did catch a touchdown in that scrimmage on Saturday. Defensively, Neil Brown liked the energy that his group started with, but they did not maintain that energy throughout the scrimmage, he said. And then he was also hoping for better results in the red zone. That's been a big sticking point for Neil throughout the month of August, has been being better across the board, but definitely defensively in the red zone, causing more turnovers on downs in the red zones. Offensively, inconsistent was the word that Neil used on Monday. There was some good, some bad. Overall, just I don't think that group performed up to the standard that he has for a veteran group like that. You've got a lot of guys on offense who've played a lot of ball at WVU and overall just a lot of ball at the college level. So I think he was hoping that group would be a little bit better than they showed on Saturday. But again, that's the first scrimmage of the year. You're going up against what should be a pretty talented defense on the other side. So, and he kind of talked about that too. It's hard to weigh the positives and negatives of that without really diving into the tape, because is a good play on defense, is it more of a good play by the defense, bad play of the offense? Sometimes it's hard to tell exactly what that is in the moment until you really dive in. But I will say the one thing you asked about running backs, and specifically CJ Donaldson. Yes. We didn't get a lot of insight on CJ and Jaheim from the scrimmage, but Neil did say that he liked what he saw out of the two freshman running backs, Travion Dunbar and Dior Hubbard. So he did like that next crop of running backs. And if the last couple of years have been any indication, West Virginia has used a freshman running back at times, or really leaned on one. So you never know what's going to happen throughout the course of the season. So the good news is those two freshman running backs seem to be progressing at a pretty good pace here. And we've also heard that some of the other young guys like Day Farmer, Rick Darius Farmer, a big wide receiver on the outside, he's progressing to a point where West Virginia really likes him. And it sounds like he's going to be kind of like Traylon Ray, was last year, a guy who, as the season progresses, I think we're going to see more of Day Farmer, because not only is it kind of a skinny kid too, he's able to catch passes, able to do some things in the backfield, but can also block as well. And that's the big, that's where he has impressed Neil Brown so far in his first fall camp.
So is this team built for this scenario? If we go, if Penn State comes into Morgantown and it becomes a game that gets up into the high 20s, maybe even the 30s, is this team built to be based, I know it's early, but based off what you see in the scrimmage, to be able to keep up and compete?
It's an interesting question just because of the opponent. Obviously under James Franklin, Penn State has not been the highest scoring of teams. And normally, I guess they're in that area you're kind of talking about. Low to mid 20s is where they kind of like to hang around. I know I think it was 38 last year against WVU, but that last touchdown was kind of in garbage time, and the game had been decided at that point. I'd say if it gets up to that level, I think West Virginia has the horses. It might just kind of come down to a field position game and special teams as well, which, again, it's one of those things that Neil always harps on, is special teams being so important. He's got a bit of a special teams background. There are some position battles in the special teams unit right now as far as kickoff and not punter, but field goal kicker, I believe, is also somewhat up for question at the moment. So, I mean, I think West Virginia has the horses. It's just a matter of maybe where does field position lie? What do penalties come down to as well? Who can play a cleaner football game?
Did you say field goal kicker? I thought our field goal kicker was like a trophy finalist or something like that. Brinkman.
No, so Brinkman is the long snapper.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, Brinkman's a long snapper. It's supposed to be one of the best in the biz. I can't say I know how to evaluate a long snapper very well. But it's supposed to be one of the best in the country. So we're
on, Coach Decker,
on that one.
There we go.
I do want to ask the question about Nico Markio too, because like people are saying like he looks really good. Do you see at any point in the season it be a QB controversy?
Great question.
Maybe.
Yeah, no, don't see at any point where we got a controversy there at quarterback. Garrett Green is QB1 from August 31st until at least through December, and then I think at that point it's whatever bowl game maybe it comes down to. It would impact the decision there, but no, GG's QB1, and really I think it sounds like from what we hear, Nico has made the necessary progression. He did a lot of work in the offseason, so it sounds like he's in a good spot. He's also, I think, being challenged by Ryder Burton, a redshirt freshman from BYU. He's come in, kind of has a similar, I'll say makeup. I don't want to say skill set, because I think overall Garrett is more skilled, but kind of a similar makeup to Garrett Green. They can do some similar things. So really 1, 2, and 3, if you have to break glass in case of emergency in a dire situation or something like that, West Virginia wouldn't have to change the offense up too much, depending on which one of those three would be in there. But no, I really don't see any circumstance where Nico challenges this year for the starting job. I think Garrett's just too talented, and there's just too much trust right now in Garrett to go away from that.
Can I push you on that a little bit, Decker, though? Just because traditionally, like over the past, I would say 6 years, like remember Jared Davey starting. And I'm not saying Jared Davey is on the level of Garrett Green coming into this year, but it seemed like a solidified position. Then Garrett Green comes out of nowhere. So we've seen these scenarios in the Neil Brown era, especially where the backups kind of could take over and all of a sudden thrive, maybe due to injury or poor play. So is it really just that out of the question?
I think it is, because I think as you go back through the quarterbacks that have been here under Neil, the starting quarterbacks on week one, I wouldn't say any of those guys have been as skilled as Garrett is. I think Garrett's got all those guys beat in terms of skill and capability. And it also, too, I mean, none of those guys that were starting week one prior to Garrett really had the dual threat capabilities that Garrett had. And that's what this offense is kind of built around, being able to run the ball really well with Jaheim and CJ, being able to systematically, I think, take your shots downfield, move the ball downfield through the air, but also knowing that at any point, GG can run and make something out of nothing if need be. So I just don't see any scenario where Garrett's not the starting quarterback aside from injury by the end of the season.
No crystal ball. I'm a GG guy, so I think these guys are crazy for even asking.
Oh, no, I love it.
I don't want to hear it. I don't want to hear it.
I love Garrett.
We shouldn't even be asking a question.
I love Garrett. And
we
I love
shouldn't
Garrett.
even be asking a question. I love it. It's my turn to talk to Decker because you guys sound insane. How in the hell are we even raising the question about Garrett Green, even potentially?
I can tell you how.
No, I get it. Look, I get it. Like, Nico is really talented. Four-star quarterback coming in, all his good stuff. If anything, the question really is
third year
the backup. We're not talking about who's the starter. We're talking about who's the backup, because you brought in a guy who
we're not talking about.
You brought in a guy from BYU who you obviously seem very high on, who Neil Brown has spoke about, but Nico and his family are very high on West Virginia and how they've spoke about Neil Brown in this program as well. Coach Brown has also brought in a freshman this year, even though nothing to really talk about this year, but brought in a freshman from the DMV area that he spoke extremely high about how he performed in the camp.
On that note, I really think Khalil has looked really, really good. If there's one guy in that quarterback room aside from Garrett,
let him talk, because me and Decker aren't done.
Khalil's a guy. I think he's 6'3". Dude looks like a football player. I mean, like 2026 might be a really interesting year.
Oh my God!
Hold on. And the reason I'm also asking Decker is because when you have a room like that, and in the college, realm that we live in, and once again, no crystal ball, how does that work for a guy like Neil Brown when you have potentially three extremely talented guys behind a guy who's probably looking at his last year? Even if he did have another COVID year, I don't think we see a reality of Garrett being at West Virginia next year. How do the stars align with a quarterback room like that, and creating quarterback competition, but also hoping someone doesn't leave?
Right. So, I mean, the thing is, obviously, in the era in which we are in college athletics, it's so hard to plan for the future because of the transfer portal, So you never know what's going to happen. But yeah, I mean, you would like to think going into 2025, WVU is going to have three quarterbacks in Nico, Ryder, and likely Khalil, who can all challenge one another for that QB1 spot. Now, I would say at this point, Nico probably has an edge in that, given how much longer he's been in the system compared to the other two. But I tell you, Khalil looks really good. I know they are high on Ryder as well, but Nico certainly has the pedigree, and he had all that potential coming out of high school. At some point, you'd like to think that shows up on the college football field, especially for as good of a kid as he seems to be. I mean, you can't find anyone who says a bad word about Nico.
I'm a big fan of Nico. I watched him throw up on a highlight tape and go out and win the game. You're not going to find me saying a bad thing about him. I love him. The kid. But I'm riding out this year. I've waited for Garrett Green for the last however many years, and I'm going to do it with no controversy.
Yeah, I
That's
mean,
my mindset.
But Cook, I just want it on the record. We got clowned for asking about the possibility that the same guy he loves and saw puke on the field and come back, taking over.
It's
But
not
then
his
we had
time.
to talk
It's
about
not his
a
time.
guy
It's
who's
not his
not going
time.
to see the field until 2026 because he's from
It's
the
not
DMV.
his time.
We had to get
Not
the
his
bias out. We just had to get we had to get your bias out. I can't.
Fair.
believe Garrett Green is a dark
he's
horse.
from the DMV area. No, I'm just telling you, from seeing him a couple of times in practice, Khalil looks really good. He looks like a football player. And I think, too, if for whatever reason, quarterback doesn't work out, whether it's Nico in 25, and then you just say it's Ryder Burton in 26. If he gets antsy, to me, the body type, you can transition him to whether it's wide receiver, some other athletic position. Khalil is a guy who I think can be in this program and do some good things at some point, whether it's at QB or wherever else.
Love that.
Does the outlook, like traditionally for West Virginia, we're not known for our quarterbacks, let's just be honest, fellas. But we can produce good college receivers. And it doesn't look like the crop we have right now is quite to the caliber we're like used to. Is that going to take that jump this year?
Yeah, it should. So I think this year's wide receiver group is, at least starting week one, a lot better than last year's was. Now, obviously, last year going into the season, we didn't know how good Hudson Clement could be. We didn't know exactly how good Traylon Ray could be on the college stage. But you know those two things now. You add in a guy in Justin Bray who's made a number of really good catches in practice, some that we've seen live, others that we've just heard about because they've been in closed practices. Justin Robinson, also a really talented guy. And then you've got other guys who have been in the program for a while, like a Preston Fox, who is going to be relied on to make plays at one point. To me, this is a deeper pass catching stable that West Virginia has this year than it certainly was last year. You also added a known commodity in Cole Taylor. Again, he was here last year, but you just didn't know exactly what to expect out of him. And the big thing is, too, and actually Cole just talked about this last week, I think now because you've got all those games from last year with GG, all the offseason with Garrett Green as well, there's a much higher, I think, trust and familiarity factor with this team as far as throwing the football that just wasn't there at this point last year. And you can kind of see that in practice as well, that they're kind of doing more of those back shoulder fades. And it's a pass that Garrett seems to be pretty comfortable throwing and seems to have that buttoned up pretty well. That they're doing more things like that at this point last year, they just weren't at that level. Sometimes Matt Moore is really big on talking about, 100 level classes, and then with his veteran offensive lineman getting up to the 400 level. This time last year, Garrett Green wasn't at the 300 level class, we'll just say, because he didn't have all that experience yet. You started this fall at 300 level, and maybe Garrett's at a 400 level now. So I think wide receiver room specific, and then you add in the tight ends and Jaheim and CJ who can catch the ball in the backfield. I think West Virginia's in a much better spot than they were last year, maybe even the year before that.
Hey, if you don't get fired up about that, I don't know what would get you fired up. Garrett Green for Heisman too.
So what do we have?
Yes.
What do we have as we see like the offensive identity? And we talk about the improvement of Garrett Green as a passer. We know what we have in the backfield and returning, on the offensive line. But what does it look like from the standpoint of being able to, push the ball down the field more, like hitting the intermediate routes across the middle?
Mm-hmm.
What does that look like? Because we're used to seeing the screens, the bubble screens, and the deep passes from Garrett Green. So does the playbook expand this year as far as the passing game, or are we leaning on the same things, hoping that the run game opens up everything else?
Yeah, so I think the playbook does expand again because Garrett's another year wiser, another year more experienced at this level. I think you've got a more well-rounded group of playmakers around him too. But just going back to last year real quick, West Virginia ran the ball 63% of the time, passed it 37% of the time. Ideally, that's closer to a 50-50 split. Just don't know how likely that is this year because of what I talked about earlier. At any point, Garrett can drop back intending to pass, but he takes off on a run. It counts as a run. So I think that number is always going to be at least 55-45 for West Virginia. The big thing, too, I think, listening to some of what has been said, reading between the lines a little bit, I think the big thing is this year, West Virginia wants to be able to, in that first 80 yards of the football field, be able to get wide a little bit more often. You were talking about bubble screens there in that question. Certainly, I think that's something that we could see. Maybe the pop pass. Tavon Austin just retired today from the NFL officially. That pop pass that was really popular with Tavon, I think we could see that a little bit more this year as well with some of the guys, especially a Day Farmer. We've seen that a couple times with Day in practice. And a big emphasis as well with the offensive line has been getting on the outside, being able to block from the tackle box or the hash mark, whatever you want to call it, to the boundary, and being able to make more plays on the outside. That kind of tracks more with what West Virginia has from a skill position standpoint this year, especially with Jaheim. He's much better on the outside than he is up front. You can get CJ in space. We've seen that time and time again, what he can do. I think that's where the identity maybe is this year. Then you talk about the intermediate passes and those type of things. With Garrett, you're going to take your shots downfield. There was that stat out there last year that he had the highest big time throw percentage, or whatever that PFF stat was, that big time throws.
They make a lot of stats.
What'd you say?
They make a lot of stats.
They do. They do make a lot of stats, and you don't know what it is sometimes. But big time throws was stat. So you're going to take shots downfield with Garrett. The big thing that he worked on all off season long was especially footwork and just, I think, how your feet mesh with the rest of your body to make sure those intermediate and short throws get completed more often than not. And then going back to Cole Taylor, his goal this year is to catch 50 passes. He wants to win the John Mackey Award, which is given for the top tight end in the country. West Virginia hasn't had a tight end go for more than 35 catches since at least 1998.
Anthony Beck.
And Anthony Beck and Cole Taylor last year, both 35. So getting over 36 would be great out of the tight end room just for Cole Taylor this year. But you get to that 50 mark, that's where for the last several years the Mackey Award winner has been. At least 50. It's kind of been the floor, so to speak. So, yeah, I mean, he's going to be a big target. Jaden Bray is going to be a big target on the outside. You're going to try to get the ball to Hudson all over the field. Traylon Ray, you can do a lot of good things with him. Again, another deep guy. Preston Fox, you can get in space. We haven't really talked about Rodney Gallagher III yet. Sounds like he's taken that next step. So, again, they've got more options, I think, this year that, again, have that experience offensively as far as identity. They're going to run the ball a lot. They want to run the ball to the outside. They want to score more touchdowns in the red zone. That's been another emphasis as well. But overall, it might look about the same. You might get that play, the play ratio as far as run and pass. It might get a little bit closer because you're going to hit on more of those passes likely this year. But at the end of the day, if you've got one of the best offensive lines in the country and you've got a two-headed monster like you have, why change what got you to the dance last year, so to speak?
Hey, and I'm big for running the ball, man. 100% of the time on college football, I run the ball like 95% of the time. I drop back in a 5 spread and I run it with Gary Green, so I'm good. We don't need to. And I might ask you this for the next 2 weeks: is Rodney Gallagher on defense?
Yeah, so it was a question that Neil got on Monday because we hadn't really heard an update about that too much since the spring. Sounds like he's taking more snaps over there this past week than he had week 1 of fall camp. I think they were trying to make sure that, everyone who plays their strict position was in their position and getting trained there. But yeah, he's taken some more reps over at the nickel spot. And it sounds like, somewhere maybe 5 snaps a game, maybe more than that. But I think 5 is a comfortable number there that potentially he could play on that side of the ball. I think, too, there's so many more moving pieces in the defensive backs room already this year. I just wonder how much you actually see him there because you're trying to integrate so many other guys who have come in or didn't play a lot last year or what have you. So you're already moving some pieces on the chessboard. I wonder how much he's going to play. But at the end of the day, I think Neil said it at one point this year. It's about getting your good athletes on the football field as much as possible. And if you can get a guy like Rodney Gallagher III on the football field and have it be on defense, and it's something he's done before at the high school level, and if he's at the proper level here, then why not? Especially if it's a certain package or whatever. So I think at some point we see him over there. I wouldn't say it's week 1 against Penn State. Maybe it's against Albany week 2, and then you go from there. But I think at some point, yeah, you see him on that side of the ball at some point this year.
Gotcha. Good to know. And then you talked about it being a physical week of football. So just want to know if there was any injuries that came out of that, those scrimmages and things like that.
So Neil didn't say anything that came out of the scrimmage. At least he didn't specify anything. The couple of injury updates we have, Asani Redwood, who had been limited so far in fall camp, he's a full go. He's practicing. Jacoby Spell's still about where he was as of the start of fall camp, where he is. He's practicing to some degree. He's just still limited as far as it comes to contact. They, I think, are hopeful that he will be ready for the Penn State game, but it's an upper body injury that he dealt with in spring ball, then had to have surgery on to cut his spring short. So the hope is he'll be ready to go for week 1. But and Neil even said he's a bit ahead of schedule there, but it's just when his body will be ready for consistent contact in a game like setting. I think it's the depending factor. Excuse me. There. Then 2 more. Trey Lathan, full participation. He missed a practice last week, and then safety Anthony Wilson. He was sidelined this past week, but Neil was hopeful that as of tomorrow, Wednesday, he'll be good to go.
All right, folks, on deck with Ryan Decker, the man, the myth, the legend. Thanks for spending your hour with us, man.
Of course, guys. Always great to be here.
Appreciate you, man.
Appreciate you, Ryan. You know it. My boy Ryan, man, he got the best information in Morgantown. Jay, what we got next?
We got a very special guest, a guest you should know pretty well. West Virginia tight ends coach Blaine Stewart sat down with us over the summer to chat about all things West Virginia football. The very sport, I've known the owner for quite a long time, always providing great sports equipment for a lot of different sports teams in need and whatnot, but then also just some cool, sleek swag, not a big logo all blasted all over your shirt and whatnot, just something sleek you can wear out on a date, just, wear out to go work out sometime. So definitely got to check out my boy on the very sport.
So Blaine, want to thank you for coming on today's show, first episode of High Street Legends. We know you got a lot going on right now, especially with fall camp coming up. So we appreciate your time, man. We appreciate that.
Thank you very much for having me, man. When you brought it up, man, I had to make it a priority, and I'm glad we're getting to do this.
I appreciate that, man.
Yes,
so before we get into the interview, I want to just take everybody through how I met Blaine. So most of you know I played football at West Virginia back in 2009, and I was a part of one of Bill Stewart's first recruiting class. Yeah. And I just remember a kid walking around the locker room with a football. Just every day I see him, he got a football in his hand. So, I followed his journey through high school, playing at Morgantown. He played college at JMU, University of Charleston. And then when I saw he got the opportunity to be a coach at the Steelers, I'm like, oh, he's interested in coaching. And from that point, I knew that he was at some time going to be a West Virginia coach. So now West Virginia tight ends head coach, not head coach, but tight ends coach. And that takes me to the first question. Can you kind of take us through your journey of becoming a coach? Mm-hmm. And then the second part is, can you go into detail about the relationship your dad had with Mike Tomlin and how his coaching had an effect on you? I know it's a loaded question. It's three questions in one.
Absolutely. So, I grew up in a very unique relationship with the game of football. Honestly, my first memories, like you said, were in the locker room, at practice, locker room after games, things like that, getting to meet the players and thinking, I was very naive to the fact that was not normal. I realized looking back that I was very fortunate to have super cool relationships, guys that played for my dad, played at West Virginia. So being around football, it was one of those things that was kind of second nature to me. I knew I wanted to play in college. I knew I wanted to, take it as far as I could. And probably in high school is when I started realizing that I wanted to coach at some point, because we were playing somebody. And I remember I was on varsity like my junior year, and I asked the coach to be on the headset with the quarterback. I was playing receiver. Dave Johnson, the O-line coach's son, was my quarterback, Mark. And we were on the headset bullshitting. Oh, I hope I can say that. Yeah, we were on the headset, just like coaching up the young guys, and it was great. And I remember that distinctly. And then when I went to JMU, I was a redshirt freshman. I was playing on special teams, like I was the holder on field goal and stuff, not playing much wideout, but I had the opportunity to signal for the offense. So my first game, my redshirt freshman year, was at Maryland. So JMU went up to Maryland. It didn't go too well because we played against some guys named Stephon Diggs and Yannick Ngakoue, and they turned out being pretty damn good. But I remember being on the headset in my first college game, signaling and hearing the coaching communication. And when I walked away with that, when I was like 19 years old, I was like, all right, like this is absolutely what I want to do. So I kind of, my entire college career was setting up to be a coach. Everyone was like, man, like football kind of comes second nature to you. Like I was helping guys with the plays and stuff and trying to be a coach on the field as best I could. So I wanted to do that. And then after my third year at JMU, I was going to graduate. So I had a kind of a choice. I was like, all right, I played 3 years, graduated. I was on a partial scholarship, and I knew like GAing was out there. So I told myself, like, all right, I'm not going to make my mom pay for any school. I was on a 50% scholarship, loved my time there. It was unbelievable. And I knew I wanted to graduate. But my coach, Everett Withers, took the job at Texas State. So there was going to be a coaching turnover. And I met with him, and he was like, I know you have a long plan of getting into this thing. But he's like, once you're done playing, like, man, it's over. Like, coaching will always be there. So that was kind of his advice. And I was like, all right, well, I had some good relationships with teams in West Virginia, like D2 teams that recruited me in high school. So I went and played for Coach Kirkland, Pat Kirkland, who Darwin.
I remember.
Got the job from West Virginia at University of Charleston. So I went down there, played for 2 seasons, got my graduate degree down there. Great experience, played a lot, enjoyed it. But then when I was done, that kind of leads me to my next thing. Like Coach Tomlin always said he was going to take care of me. After my dad passed, like, it really springboarded our relationship, and I'm thankful for that. So when I was leaving JMU, I had an internship I had to require for graduation, and I hit up Coach T. I was like, hey, like, is there anything in the organization I can do? So he said, yeah, just come to Pittsburgh on this day. We'll figure it out. Well, 2 days later, I was at OTAs, not knowing what a single play was, not knowing formations, not knowing anything, but I had a script, and I was reading the plays to the young wide receivers. I was making copies in the office. I was getting copies in the office, getting copies for coaches, doing special projects of like grunt film work, which was awesome. And I didn't know what the heck I was doing. So that 10-week internship in the summer while I was still in college led me to have relationships with coaches. Like I just tried to do my best to put my best foot forward in terms of work ethic. So then 2 years later, when I was done at Charleston, they had an opening on offense as a coaching assistant, which is like a GA in the NFL. So Coach T said, keep in touch with me, blah, blah. So I kept in touch with them. They had an opening, and I knew all those coaches from Coach T let me do that internship. So it worked out well. I came in as an entry-level coach. Same thing, very green, very raw to the business of, professional football. But that led to 5 great seasons in Pittsburgh, where I was with the wide receivers, with special teams, really grew a lot in terms of just football, draft prep, free agency, all that stuff I was involved. And Coach T always pushed me. Like he'd make me go speak at clinics to do public speaking, which at the time I was terrified and nervous, like talking to all these coaches that were way older than me, but it helped push me. And Coach T always had a plan. And he said, when you leave Pittsburgh, like I'm gonna get you a position job. So that was my goal the whole time. And then circling back to the second part of your question.
So when he said that to you, I know your eyes lit up like a light bulb.
Oh yeah. So I was eager to his biggest thing was, to coach. I had great opportunities in Pittsburgh, but he said, until you're coaching a group of guys, like you ain't coaching. So I was learning for 5 years. I was part of some great opportunities to grow as a young coach. Like during COVID, one of the special teams coordinator got COVID during the COVID season. Yeah, well, I had to run 3 meetings that he had prepared me for, and I was nervous as heck. And I was very thankful that my guy Danny Smith passed COVID protocols and could coach on Sunday, but I was like sweating. But he had prepared me throughout the season with, hey, it was kind of funny. He was rotating amongst the staff, like, we're going to pretend you have COVID today. So receiver coach, Blaine's in charge. Hey, my guy Denzel Martin, who is now the outside linebackers coach, we came in together as coaching assistants. Hey, Carl Dunbar, you got COVID today. Denzel's got the whole crew. And I was probably 27 at the time. Denzel was 29. And man, we were running the day. We ran meetings, we were in practice, we graded the film. Like it was a great experience. But then in December, when somebody actually got COVID, I was at least somewhat prepared. And the guys at least knew like I had a grasp of what was going on. So it was great. But my dad and Coach T go way back. You want me to touch on that?
Yep, I want you to touch on that too, and then we also have some questions about Mike Tomlin as well.
Okay.
That we'd like to get into.
I'll start kind of where they met. So my dad in the 80s coached at a school called William and Mary, which is where Coach Tomlin went. So the head coach at William and Mary was there for like 30 years. His name is Jim Laycock. He they named the football building after him. He was like kind of William & Mary's Don Nealon, if you will. Like he was there, kind of built the program.
Gotcha.
So my dad coached there, had left, bounced around, and was a first-time head coach at VMI. Well, Mike T was finishing up in 1995 at William & Mary, and VMI is a small school on a smaller budget. So my dad was, I'm sure, asking around like his coaching references, like, hey man, I need a wideout coach. So they got Coach Tomlin to come up in the spring after graduation. And Mike T told this story, like it was more just kind of a meet and greet. Well, by the end of the weekend, he had a script and he was coaching the receivers in practice. So Mike T was 23, I think, fresh out of college, like the same age as the players, but obviously has a special skill with people skills and football and all that. So Coach Tomlin was there 1 year. I was 1 year old. I was born the season before. So 1995, Mike T was a receiver coach. And then after that year, I believe he got a GA job at Memphis and then kind of springboarded. But from that point on, they stayed in great contact. And Coach Tomlin got the job in Pittsburgh, I believe, in 07. And my dad became the head coach in Morgantown in 08. So they had a great relationship when we were so close between Morgantown and Pittsburgh.
Man,
So,
thank
Coach,
you for that. Thank you for that detailed story, man. We appreciate that for
Yes,
sure.
sir.
And did Mike Tomlin stay with you all as well? Like I remember,
I don't know that he ever stayed.
Yeah, but I guess.
But
like,
hey, I'll tell you this.
or something like that.
Well, when my dad had a newborn, you know, he needed some buddies to have a couple cold ones with on the weekend. And being the head coach, my dad would provide the beer for the young coaches. So I'd be sitting in the basement with my dad and Mike Tomlin and actually Dan Quinn, who's head coach of the Commanders. He was a D-line coach. So they were both like under 25-year-old coaches. And I'm sure they didn't exactly love hanging out with the head coach on a Friday or Saturday night, but he had the free cold ones. So they'd come over and then kick their evening off and then go do whatever, you know, young guys do. But yeah, they were spending a lot of time in the basement, I guess, because that's where the cooler was.
Man, that's good stuff. That's good stuff. Jay, you had a question. You had a question for Blaine?
Yeah, Coach, I'm just dying to know, are you a volunteer or are you a prison?
Oh man, I'm a volunteer all day. And man, we do not care where good ideas come from. And we do not seek comfort. So
exactly,
man,
the standard. Yeah, so
I feel like a karate kid. Like that, it's just been ingrained in me. Like I didn't even know what I was doing. But hey, we do not seek comfort. Volunteers, not hostages. And man, you know, we don't care where good ideas come from. I promise you that.
I love that. I love that. So you talk about, you know, Tomlin getting his start under your pops, and then, you know, you getting your start under Tomlin. So you got an aspect of the pro game, you know, watching the pro coaches go to work. You also coached 3 Pro Bowl receivers, AB, Deontay Johnson. Then you also had Claypool had a great season as well. So, like, how does that approach in the pro game? How do you, as a coach that into the guys of the college game at this level now at West Virginia?
That's a great question. Well, first and foremost, you know, I think I can just provide experiences that I was around, which are cool and unique. Like when I think of each of those guys, they've all got a distinguishing trait. So like Antonio Brown, you know, I'll never be saying anything but positive things about AB. I was a 23-year-old. I turned 24 that season, first year in the NFL, and AB treated me nothing with grace and respect. I would do special projects for him in terms of like coverages and stuff and like his route tree and how we were getting him the ball. And AB was nothing but great to me. So the thing that I take from him is like his work ethic was unbelievable. And like the way he took care of his body in 2018 when he had 15 touchdowns and led the league and went to a Pro Bowl, like there was no secret sauce to that. He did that work throughout the summer, throughout training camp, and throughout the practice week to where he was making crazy plays in practice. His work ethic was unbelievable. You talk about a guy like Deontay Johnson, who really came into his own and is obviously in Carolina now on a nice contract. His thing is just raw talent. Like he has tapped into his talent, and he showed up day one, one of the most talented dudes there. But to see him fine tune his skills and his craft was awesome. And in Claypool, you know, we had a great run there in Pittsburgh. Obviously, he's kind of, you know, bouncing around a little bit. And but he's in Buffalo now, and I actually just went to an OTA and saw him, and we had a great conversation. And, you know, I think he's in a great place mentally to really, you know, find a niche in his career. And then, you know, we had Juju, who was a Pro Bowl receiver also. Juju was the smartest guy in the room. So what I try to apply to our guys is just, you know, what is your skill set and how can we maximize it? Like I've got tight ends that have very different skill sets. Well, how can we tap into each of you so you have a role in our offense? And I just try to provide perspective. Like Darwin knows, like the skill level between great college players and everyday NFL players is still huge. So like you have to have every part of your game right and tight if you want to take that thing to the next level. And I just try to provide perspective and really just give guys information that if that's something they want to do, hopefully we can get that done with our program here in West Virginia, which obviously has every resource to make guys successful.
Right. Appreciate that.
Coach, when you talk about, the talent you've been around, the guys you've been around and coached, and you look at the raw talent, how does that help you and kind of helping, looking ahead to the next question? When you get guys like Cole Taylor, how does, that help you, look at him when you've seen the NFL talent, and then you look at a guy who has this tremendous size, and, I'm not sure if you would call it, raw skill, raw talent, or a lot of untapped potential. I'm not sure how you look at it, but
Sure.
How do you evaluate talent, especially when you're coming across, not everyday tight end walking the street at 6'7" plus, being able to stand over everybody in the huddle?
That's a great question. So first and foremost, every position is different. So tight end is one of those positions where you got to have the size to play the position at the highest level. So Cole absolutely has that. So when you see a guy like Cole Taylor, you see the size, and then you get him on the field and you start to see unique athletic ability for that size. Like you said, he's 6'7". I think he's weighing around 255 right now, coming off of his shoulder surgery. He's in great shape after the rehab process this past spring. So what I can tell a guy like Cole and recruits and things of that nature is like I've seen what NFL tight ends are supposed to look like. Like when Cole Taylor hopefully has the shot to go in the NFL, he is not going to look out of place. So I think I have that perspective to say, okay, it's almost a comparison game. Like I've seen guys with his skill set, do well. I'm not saying Cole Taylor's Mark Andrews, but like that's a body type that I try to compare him to. I'm not saying he's Trey McBride, but that's a body type I compare him to. So our offseason study's been studying guys with similar skill sets, and we watch their college film, we watch their NFL film, and I just think the perspective I have is to provide a framework for a game plan of how he can train this offseason. We can, hopefully put him in position to be successful this fall, and then during the draft process, like prepare him for what's going to be asked of him at the combine, at one-day visits, and then hopefully get him ready for pro day and things like that. But I just think the perspective I have is, I actually went to 3 NFL OTAs 2 weeks ago, and the number one thing I was looking at, let me look at that tight end room and let me see where Cole would fit, honestly. And size-wise, athletic ability, he's got a lot to prove this fall in terms of total tight end play, but on paper, day one shows up, he's going to look the part.
Okay. And also, Coach, just staying on the topic of recruitment, with Morgantown and the new NIL, what are some of the biggest challenges that Morgantown faced in terms of getting a 4 or 5 star recruit to come?
It's a great question. One thing, as is we have been a hotbed for NFL players. And I attribute that to our recruiting from all the way back to Don Nealon, and I attribute that to the resources we have here at West Virginia. I think Mike Joseph is one of the best, if not the best, strength coaches in the country. I really think he can tap into a guy's potential. Like I'm sure, man, I would love to see the before and after photo of Darwin Cook from the day he showed up to the day he left as a senior.
I was 175 pounds and I left like 205, 210 pounds.
Probably as fast and explosive as you've ever been when you left West Virginia. So I think, just talking about how do you get guys on campus here at West Virginia, right? Like I'm going through it now. I'm recruiting kids all over the country. And if you're not from really this like 3-hour radius, you may not know a lot about West Virginia. You may not know about the Pat Whites and the Steve Slaytons and the wonderful success we've had. Because I had a rude awakening when I was in high school in Alabama, talking about, hey man, what year were you born? And he said 2007. And I was like, oh man, like I can't even talk to you about Pat White because you were a baby, like when he was finishing his career. Yeah. So, but the one I always hit on is hey man, tell me what you know about West Virginia. And they'll be like, I don't know. I was like, all right, what player went to West Virginia? They're like Tavon Austin. So
Tavon
I
Austin.
always
That's
have
it.
like a connection
That's
there.
it.
So they all like the kids in high school still watch the highlight tape. They still know West Virginia. So I think one thing, for West Virginia, and as you know, Darwin, is we got to get guys on campus. We just had an official visit last week, and it was a kid from down south I'm recruiting, and his uncle was like, man, he's like, I'm not saying I had preconceived notions about West Virginia, but y'all have blown me away with what you have to offer here at WVU and Morgantown. And I was like, yeah, I was like, sir, if we get guys on campus, we feel like we can put our best foot forward to compete with anybody in the country. So I think the recipe is getting guys on campus, getting guys that want to be here. This is a place where you got to be blue collar, you got to be tough. It's not always going to be flashy. But if you can buy into this place, you can achieve any goal you have for yourself at West Virginia, just like your crew did, Darwin, and just like guys have done here for a long time.
Yeah. The greatest class in West Virginia history.
Hey, man.
Look at the names. Look at the names. Look at the names.
Look at what they've done. Look at what they've done since leaving West Virginia.
Exactly. Look at it. So I think that is. Guys, you want to lead off with a question?
Yeah, Coach, you talk about some of the challenges now and some of the pluses of coming to Morgantown and whatnot. But I kind of wanted to circle back into what you were elaborating in the tight end position. You got Cole Taylor. He's a Colorado boy, born and raised in Grand Junction, right down the road. So he's tough, right? In this spread offense that Neil runs, right, with that ball control, we're going to run the ball with C.J. Donaldson and whatnot. How does that open up opportunities for your tight end room specifically? Because it's much different how we use the tight ends in Morgantown, obviously, than your counterparts in Stillwater.
Sure. I think one thing we've done a really good job of, and I can obviously only speak to last year that I was around, I think we've played to our strengths, which was a very dynamic run game. Obviously, you see guys like Zach Frazier, Wyatt Milam, everyone on the O-line, Doug Nestor, who just got signed by the Minnesota Vikings. We got some guys coming back like Yates, Tomas Remack, and Jaquay Hubbard to come back with Wyatt. So I think we got to lean on our strengths for sure. And a guy like Garrett Green is really an X factor in the run game too. Like obviously he's got unbelievable arm talent, but with his athletic ability in the run game, you have to take away certain things. And how do you do that, right? You bring down a safety. You play more zone defense, so you always have eyes on Garrett. Well, what does that do? That allows guys at tight end, at receiver, like our young talented receivers, to really open up the pass game and making everything look the same. Like if we have a formation with some run sets, we got to have some play actions. And Cole's done a good job taking advantage of some play action sets. First play of the game to Traylon Ray in the bowl game. We ran a motion that was one of our favorite run sets with Rodney Gallagher on a fly motion. Hard play fake, brought the safety down and threw it to Traylon Ray over the top. So speaking to the offense, I think we just have to continue to apply our strengths and putting our guys in position. And that starts with a good run game, like you mentioned, and really just how can we be the best team? We obviously want to light it up on offense, but if we need to run the ball one day, we need to run the ball. If we got to go score 40, we got to go score 40. So I think there's a bunch of different recipes, but Coach Brown and the rest of our offensive staff, really try to play to strengths that help us overall.
And that leads me into my next question when you're talking about strengths. I wanted to ask you, what do you believe the strength of this team is? Is it upper class leadership, or, is the offense and defensive line, do we have depth there? What are the strengths of this team? What do you think would be the strengths that's going to take us on that playoff push and championship run?
Well, first and foremost, I think the experience we have coming back is a major strength. Obviously, you lose a guy like Zach Frazier and you lose a guy like Doug Nestor who played a lot of snaps here. Though that's not going to be replaced overnight. But other than those two, we have 9 guys of the 11 coming back that played a lot of football. And even, the 2 that will be plugged into that offensive line, Nick Malone and Jaquay Hubbard, played a ton of snaps. So experience first on the offensive side is something that's great. Cole Taylor's played a lot of football. Garrett Green has now seen a lot of football in his year and a half starting over the last 2 years. So I think our experience is great. We've got eager young talent on offense with the receivers, with C.J. Donaldson, who I feel like he's been here forever, but he's only a true junior. So C.J. and Jaheim in the backfield, and an experienced guy like Jalen Anderson and some young running backs that we signed are going to be great for us.
What happened to C.J.? What happened to C.J.?
That?
What happened to C.J. Donaldson?
CJ will be back. CJ will
Like
be
it's-
back this year. He got his shoulder cleaned up. He was really banged up last year, so he got his shoulder cleaned up in December. Ended up missing the bowl game, but CJ's in the best shape he's been in since I've been here. He's 240 pounds, running well. So CJ's excited about a big year. And I think CJ realizes he's got to be a veteran leader for us now, even though everyone kind of views him still as young CJ. So we're excited about where he is. And then touching on the defensive side of the ball is I think we've got playmakers at every level. You've got Sean Martin up front. You got some D linemen like Eddie V and Fatorma who have played a lot of football. Our linebacking core is as deep as it's been. We've got 5 guys that can play.
Okay.
I'd be shocked if there's a more talented nickelback, Aubrey Burks, who plays both nickel and safety.
I told you,
Like,
I told you.
And AB is special.
Aubrey,
He's got ball skills.
Aubrey,
And he's going into a big year. And then we got some guys on the back end that brought in some transfers that have played a lot of football. So I just think there's playmakers on every level. And if those guys can fly around and create turnovers for us and play, good defense, I think we got a recipe to, just be in every game. And then in the fourth quarter, whatever happens, happens. So I think we've just got a bunch of hungry guys that got a taste last year and felt how close we were, versus Oklahoma State, at Houston, even at Penn State. We didn't play our best game week 1, but I think the edge that West Virginia teams always need to have is a part of this 2024 team.
Coach, a lot of the players you named kind of stand out to me for multiple reasons. One for me would be versatility that comes, straight off the top of my head. You think about C.J. Donaldson, who was originally recruited as a tight end, has transitioned to a running back who looks like he's been playing running back for some time, especially when he's healthy on the field. When you look at a lot of the players on this team, I know you mentioned Aubrey, being a nickelback. There have been times where we've seen him play other positions, in the secondary as well. How do you see versatility being a focal point of this team and being able to help guys not only grow, but also help guys step in and solidify roles for themselves at other positions as well?
I think that's a great question. One thing we try to do is, we're big believers in implementing skills regardless of the position. So we do this thing called group fundamentals, right? It's simple on offense. We'll take 2 tight ends, 3 receivers, and a running back, and they'll rotate stations with all of our coaches. So like today, we were doing some blocking stuff, we were doing some route stuff, we were doing some run after catch stuff. We try to just put guys in positions to show their dynamic skill sets. And one thing I love too is say we're in a 2-back set with Jaheim and CJ, right? Well, that's a hell of a problem in the run game. Yeah, well, what happens when we go empty and we got CJ in one slot and Jaheim in the other? Those are 2 really good pass catchers. What happens, when we bring in an extra linebacker on defense and try to, really stop the run? Well, that extra linebacker is pretty damn athletic and can cover the pass too. So, I think the more you can do, and moving a guy like Sean Martin around the defensive line, the more you can do, it can kind of take away from tendencies as a game plan thing, and move guys around and say, all right, every time, Cole Taylor's in the slot, this isn't always going to happen. Every time Jaheim White and CJ are together in the backfield, this isn't going to happen. So we try to marry roles to skill sets and then implement those based on any game plan of the week, which I think, Coach Brown starts at the top doing an excellent job of that and just getting guys where they can best be showcased their natural athletic ability.
Coach, you mentioned Coach Neil Brown. I imagine he's very night and day from Mike Tomlin, right? Trusting the climb, a little folksy a little bit. What's it like working for Coach Brown?
They're way more similar, than I first anticipated, but there's absolutely differences. But I think the way that they, lead an organization is, they may be different styles, but that's the, top-down accountability that I've, come to see firsthand with Coach T and now Coach Brown. I think Coach Brown does an excellent job setting the course for a organization. It's pretty crazy. This organization is way bigger than the Pittsburgh Steelers organization. There's more people. There's obviously more departments with recruiting and, various things. There's more students involved. We got interns, we got, booster relations. There's a ton more stuff. So Coach Brown, his leadership style has its hand in everything. So I think Coach Brown is a football lover, which is awesome. First and foremost, that dude loves football. I don't know that he has another hobby other than going to his kids' sporting events. Like Coach Brown is awesome, but that dude is football all the time. Same thing with Coach T. Like Coach T is not a golfer. Coach T is not really a beach guy. Like dude loves football. So I think that's probably the number one comparison now that I think about it is they both love football. So Coach Brown does an excellent job of, hiring and putting people in position to, carry their own weight within an organization. And that's the same thing Mike T does. Like he means it. I don't care by what means you got here is one thing he says to guys all the time. Like, I don't care if this is your first job, your 10th job. I don't care if you're a free agent, first round draft pick, offensive coordinator, coaching assistant. Like if you're willing and able to help, he wants willing and able men to help the organization. So I think they have more similar leadership styles than I may have realized before this interview, now that I'm verbalizing it. But they both love football and they both, love their players and really push the organization to be better in all phases. And that it's no different than when I had to give we called them power hours, a power hour talk to the coaching staff in Pittsburgh. We do the same thing with our GAs here for their personal growth. And I'll tell you, when there was a 30-year NFL vet sitting in the front row of my first power hour talk, I was very nervous and I probably talked really fast. And it's funny now, seeing some GAs kind of go through the same thing. Like, I think they're just big on growth and development, and that's a wonderful boss to have.
Coach. All right. We like to have a lot of fun on this show here. So we got a segment here. We're gonna get to the segment.
Let's get it.
All right. So our first segment is called Start, Bench, Cut. All right. You're gonna pick one guy to start, one guy to bench, one guy to cut. All right. 3 names. You ready?
Yep.
All right. Coach Mike Tomlin, Coach Neil Brown, Coach Dana Holgerson.
All right. All right. Darwin probably came up with that.
Hey, I actually didn't. I did not. But I'm like, that would be a good question to ask.
Yeah. So, all right. Well, based out of my, my first boss, I'm gonna have to start Mike T. I like Mike T versus anybody. I don't care the situation. I don't care if it's football related, personal life related. Like Mike T's a cool guy and can fit in any situation. So I'm gonna ride with Mike T. Regardless. But you're gonna have quality depth on the bench now. So I'm gonna have Coach Brown in the on deck circle ready and waiting. He's gonna be ready. Mike T might hit a double. Neil Brown's gonna knock him in for a run. You know what I mean?
I love it.
And then I'll just cut the third. But it's all good. I appreciate that question, but I got to follow the rules. It is what it is. I'm riding with Mike T and Coach Brown.
Everybody needs a water boy, right?
Man, y'all crazy as hell. Darwin ain't prepped me for that question.
Coach, before we get you to more stuff you're prepped for, one more serious thing, and I'm just curious, and I guess it's just I guess you can say it's a joking matter also. One, what is your pregame playlist? If we have to look at you before the game and we have to guess what's in your headphones, what is it? Yeah. And then 2, what is on Coach Neil Brown's pregame playlist?
Ooh, that's a great question. So if I'm on the bus, I got a nice little rotation. Last season I was playing straight Lil Baby. I was playing Lil Baby all the time, man. What I would try to time up to when we pull up to the man trip. So I take the headphones out for the man trip because we walk through the fans and stuff, and it's great energy. But what I was pulling up in the bus to last year was Something to Prove. So I felt like, that song was really I've been listening to that one for a long time pregame. So that's my guy. I love Lil Baby. I'm not a big music guy in the coach's locker room. Like I like to kind of chop it up. But if I'm on the bus, it was something Lil Baby last year. If I'm feeling real crazy, I'll go pull out some old school 50 Cent from like Get Rich or Die Trying or something. But little Hustler's Ambition or something.
Okay.
That's where I've been. And then what's on Coach Brown's playlist? Man, I don't even know. I'll say this: the guy that's responsible for music in this program is offensive coordinator, running backs coach Chad Scott. Okay. I don't know if Chad has stock in Bose or he just likes, trying to get a brand or something. That dude got every Bose speaker known to man. He's got one for the group setting. He's got one for his office. He's got one for the lake. He's got it all. So Coach Brown isn't big on what's playing, but Coach Scott is a guy with a very diverse music taste. And if Coach Scott's on the aux in the coach's locker room, we got a chance.
Love that. Love that.
Yeah, Coach Scott can play anything. He can play some, oh man, some like old school country to some rap to some, he'll throw like Justin Bieber on there. Like he's got it all. And
I would love to see like
he's been playing that Post Malone and Morgan Wallen.
I would love to see like his Apple Music review like at the end of the year.
Oh yeah, the summary or whatever.
Yeah.
And I'll say this: the coolest thing about Coach Scott's music is he's got an iPod Touch from probably like 2012. Like he easily could sync it up to his phone, but he said no. Like this is my music device, and he downloads all the songs. So he doesn't need Wi-Fi. He must have got scarred one time with some Wi-Fi, so he downloads every song on his iPod. So whether it's in the air, in the middle of West Virginia with no cell phone service, like he's got his plethora of songs dialed up for any occasion.
I love it. Love it.
And
Yeah,
Blaine,
Coach Scott's the man.
so that kind of leads me into my next question. It's the question that you're prepared for.
All right.
So the question of your top five. So
Okay.
two top fives. Who are your top five West Virginia athletes of all time? And I'm
All
talking from the 50s to now, any sport, gymnastics, track,
All right, good.
rifle,
Yeah.
anything. All right.
Yeah.
Who are
Okay.
your top five?
And
All
coach,
right,
if you say Cook, I'm gonna know he paid you.
Oh no! I know. I'm not from West Virginia, but I know.
Okay, yeah, good. Because what I did was from the state of West Virginia,
from
not
West-
necessarily WVU. So
Yeah.
I'm gonna do from the state, and I don't want to do an order, but I got five dialed up. So
Gotcha.
first, and please interject. Give me thumbs up, give me thumbs down, whatever y'all think. So first and foremost, the first one that comes to mind is Jerry West, the logo of the association.
Is that five? He number
I
five?
got five.
Is he
Okay.
number five?
One.
Oh,
No,
no.
no order, no
I
order.
guess he's number one. I guess he's
Okay.
number one. So
Okay.
I'll go 1 through 5 if that's cool. You want me to go
Yeah,
5
yeah.
through 1 or 1 through 5?
1 through 5.
All right, cool. So I'm gonna go number 1, Jerry West. Anytime you're the logo of the most premier brand on earth of basketball from the great state of West Virginia and played here and had an excellent career both playing and after as a front office guy, Jerry West, unbelievable. I've never had the pleasure, to meet him, but great respect for all he's done for the state and for the game of basketball. All right, number 2, from down south, Randy Moss.
Okay.
Unbelievable talent. I was recruiting.
The list
Charleston,
sounds good
Huntington.
right now.
Yeah, no doubt. I was recruiting in Charleston and Huntington. So when I was leaving Charleston, I had to go to Riverside High School. Well, what consolidated into Riverside High School was DuPont High School. So I drove by the middle school that was DuPont High School. Now it's DuPont Middle now. And I stopped off at Bell and Rand and drove through. I drove through the gas station that was Rand U. And man, Randy Moss is an unbelievable talent and obviously probably the best receiver. If you had to ask a poll, probably the best receiver to ever play in the National Football League.
I like that.
I'm gonna switch sports a little bit. Number 3,
Okay.
I'm gonna go Mary Lou Retton from Fairmont, West Virginia, the gymnast. I believe she had
You get
either
your back for
first
that
or
one,
whatever.
coach.
She had the 10 out of 10 at the 84 Olympics. Man, I've played many a baseball game on Mary Lou Retton Drive in Fairmont, so I'm familiar. I wouldn't be doing my job if I didn't give her flowers. Mary Lou, who got a 10 out of 10 at the gymnastics for the great United States gymnastics team, man, like she's got to be up there. All right, I'm gonna be a little impartial right now.
Liking the list.
Yeah, this one may surprise some people. Number 4, Ryan Switzer. Ryan Switzer.
What?
I'm not from West Virginia, but I like the pick, Coach.
Thank you.
I
Thank you.
actually really like the pick, Coach. I do.
Coach,
Ryan
I'm just curious
Switzer-
I'm just curious what 5 is. That's all I gotta say.
Okay, yeah, I'm gonna throw a curveball on 5.
No,
But-
hold on. You got to explain Ryan Switzer.
Ryan Switzer.
Crazy.
Ryan Switzer was a 4-star high school recruit, Under Armour All-American, went to North Carolina, ended up not working out with his recruitment to West Virginia, but he had an unbelievable career at North Carolina. His freshman year, he he tied the single season record for punt returns as a freshman in North Carolina. He was an All-American. He was UNC's all-time leading receiver
Okay.
in a college career. He had like 203 catches or something. Like you do anything in 4 years, 200 catches, that's damn good. And then he was a 4th round pick.
Coach, you're talking UNC football though, Coach. I mean,
Hey,
this is
that's all good.
Such a dangerous
Dude,
term, man. I'm not taking that
y'all
away
can
from.
roast me all
come
you want.
on, Coach.
This dude went into Tallahassee, Florida, and had 15 catches on the Knolls when he was at North Carolina. I don't give a damn who the team is. You get 15 on the Knolls, you a bad boy.
I
Okay.
agree with him though. Like he was such a dangerous
take
return man.
that one.
Mhm.
Oh, over. Hey, we gonna know who your top 5 is though, but I could throw another person in that's better than him. So
Okay, we'll circle back and we'll do an honorable mention.
Okay, gotcha.
Who
All right,
else you
so
got, Coach?
man, my man Switz had a great NFL career. Ended up getting banged up, but played 6 years in the league and had a really good career. And man, that's my guy. We came out of high school together, and I don't think people, give credit to where credit is due to be a 5'8", 180-pound white dude from West Virginia that is out there playing on Sundays.
Man,
There you go.
move him
That's
up.
fair. All
Move
right.
him
You might
up.
I'm
have sold
standing
me.
on my fourth pick.
Yeah, you might have sold me a little bit.
standing
I
on
like
that
it.
one.
I like it.
Yeah, I'm standing
I
on
didn't
it.
need to be sold. I agree from the jump, Coach.
That's why you're my guy. Like, people know, man. He
There we go.
he had 6 punt returns in 1 year. That's unheard of. I stopped kicking it to him.
Okay.
But all right, number 5 from Morgantown, West Virginia, 10-year pro baseball career, Jed Jerko. If y'all remember the name, infielder from West Virginia baseball, got drafted by the Cardinals, made big money. Now he went to my rival high school, so I ain't gonna hold that against him. But Jed Jerko, during a time in which West Virginia baseball, was kind of trying to find its way, he was the light that led him to be a high draft pick, and he was my 5th in a very tough list. So please, Darwin, critique me and let me know who I'm missing.
Hey, throw in Jason Williams and throw out Ryan Switzer. White
Oh,
chocolate.
man.
Oh,
Jason
crazy.
Williams,
That is a
Williams,
good
White
one.
chocolate? You crazy.
Wait. I'm gonna go in my bag for y'all a little bit. Football historians. Sam Huff.
Sam Huff, NFL Hall of Famer. That's a great call. I tried to diversify the sports a little bit. And, I did miss Jason Williams, and I'll say hand up on him. But, man, I'm riding with my guy Switz from George Washington High School in Charleston, West
I
Virginia.
like that list though. I like that list.
Yeah.
And then from your school, top 5.
All right, here we go. Now I got to ask, how much do y'all know about the wonderful Morgantown High School athletics?
I know a few players that played with me. Tyler Anderson.
I would say any players that came out during the time I was in Morgantown, West Virginia.
Okay.
Mohegans, right?
Yeah, Mohegans, baby.
Yep.
Wonderful program. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to try to hit same thing, multiple eras, multiple sports. So first and foremost, y'all going to know this name, one of my best friends. And Morgantown is no particular order. This is just 5 names. But first, I'm going to go Nathan Adrian, basketball player, Morgantown High School.
Yep.
He was a
Yes.
4-year contributor to WVU, started, on and off all 4 years, had a really good career. Once he got his damn wrist fixed, after when he couldn't shoot a damn 3, ended up being a hell of a damn scorer for West Virginia too. But he'll tell you, his sophomore year, that shit was ugly.
Yes.
It was ugly, and he'll tell you it was ugly. But he was the lead man on Press Virginia, and he just finished year 5, still playing in Italy. So
nice.
He's playing in Italy, and I'll tell you this: I'm selfish. I told him he's not allowed to retire yet. So I've been to Italy to visit him. And I said, man, we running this thing back. And I said, now if Japan calls, we want to go play in Japan, I'll come out there to Japan too. So
there you go.
I'll go wherever he goes.
Got to knock off all the travel bucket list stuff.
Yeah, man. He's had a great career. He's played in France, Ukraine, and then 3 different teams in Italy. So he's been all over. He's having a great career. Next, I'm gonna keep it in basketball. I'm gonna go Sharon Young, who just won his 3rd state championship in a row as a point guard for Morgantown. He's committed and signed to play at Akron. His grandpa was one of my coaches, and I told him, I said, man, he needs to play football. He's a DB. He needs to play football. He's a DB. Well, I think Sharon made the right choice. He broke the scoring record, and he's going to play point guard at Akron. So excellent job by him in his career. And he hit the game winner in the state championship this year. If y'all need to look that up.
Yeah, we got to do some research on him, fellas.
Oh, man, he's nice. They had this little pick play. He came around a screen, hit a game-winning 3 in the state championship with no time left. It was unbelievable. It was like something out of a movie. All right, I'm going to give y'all another. Actually, I got a 3rd basketball player, Jay Jacobs, who came out in the 50s. He's the guy that he did Mountaineer Sports Network, MSN, for a long time. He was Tony Caridi's right-hand guy at the basketball games. So Jay Jacobs was graduated in I believe it was the 50s from Morgantown High. He was the all-time leading scoring holder until Sharon broke it. All right, I got one from the late 90s, a guy named Chris Ura. Now, most people probably don't know him, but he was a 4-year letterman at Notre Dame. He played running back in DB at Morgantown and went to Notre Dame and had a really good career. Now he's a businessman back here in West Virginia, and he's done a really good job. And then the last one, who y'all probably don't know about because she just recently graduated and signed, but she is probably the best athlete at her respective sport on this list, is Irene Riggs. She is going to run cross country and track at Stanford, and she was like a 2-time Gatorade player of the year. I don't want to mess up her accolades, but she kicked ass in the state of West Virginia track-wise, and she's going to Stanford. So she was fresh on my mind because I was reading it on Twitter and in the newspaper that she was a stud, and she's probably the best athlete on the whole list, Irene Riggs.
Gotta be pretty good to do that. Now,
I got some big time athletes.
Yeah, you know, now.
We working. Oh, Preston Fox, honorable mention, receiver for West Virginia right now. And then our starting right tackle right now, Nick Malone, former walk-on as well. He may play himself into being an NFL player this year as well. So we got some Morgantown boys. Caden Beiser plays linebacker. We got 3 on the team. Okay. Now they ain't as tough. They probably aren't as tough as Tyler Anderson was, Darwin, or like Anthony Gutta. You remember Gutta, the fullback?
Yeah, Gutta, yeah.
Oh man, Gutta's crazy as hell. He's gonna be mayor here someday in Morgantown.
He got that law firm out there.
Yes, he does, and he's collecting a lot of checks.
Now, Coach, you know, you couldn't be on a show called High Street Legends if you didn't give us, you know, your High Street story. Now, you know, we're familiar your beginnings in Morgantown are in your younger days, your teenage years. But I would have to imagine you have a memory on High Street.
Yeah, I got a couple.
Hey, let's
I got a couple. I just got to figure out, this is getting aired everywhere? Damn, I might have to keep this to myself. No, I got a couple. I got one for you that is, it was a memorable night, not always for the best way. I was a sophomore, I think, at JMU. This was probably 2014, 2015. I think it was 2015. So I was a spring of my sophomore year. Darwin, do you remember the Children's Hospital Day of Play where all the players would be in the indoor with the kids from the community and all that? They always bring back guys like Rasheed Marshall used to come back before he was working for us, Quincy. Well, Bruce came back one year. So I'm 19. Obviously, wanted to see my guys. So I came and I was playing at JMU. So they let me help the camp and stuff. And it was a great time. Well, there was an after party on High Street. And my buddies had a house in South Park. So that's just a nice little walk across the bridge. And you're right down on High Street. So I'll try to keep it as, dialed in.
Yeah, for sure.
But I'll say this. I was not 21, but I didn't think I would be able to partake in the 21-year-old activities. Being an under 21 guy, I thought I'd get the X's on my hand. Yeah. Well, when you walk in with Bruce Irvin, you get a wristband.
Oh no, you was good. Oh man, you was good.
I might have started because I thought I was going to have to, withstand the whole evening. I may have gone a little too hard on the front end.
Yeah.
And, being for free with Bruce all evening, and a guy named Trent Lusk, long snapper from Morgantown High.
That was my boy Lusk.
Man, Trent Lusk. We
got to get Lusk on here.
Oh my God, he's probably got some stories. But my man T. Lusk was in there. I was in there with me and all my 19-year-old buddies. And I won't name the establishment because I don't know what the statute of limitations is to get them in trouble. But man, we was in there. We had a good time. But I was in school, so y'all know where I was staying that night. I was staying at Mom's house. So mom came and picked me up that night, which was great. I love it. She's the best Uber driver in the world. To this day, if I need her, she gonna come pick me up in Morgantown. She picked me up and she was pissed. She was real pissed at the little manufactured bar crawl that we ended up having that night. And that's one of those High Street nights that will live in infamy, but everyone's got their story. And I thought I was, going to be, I thought I was going to be able to hang with the big dogs, and I was not.
Yeah.
I was not.
Yeah, Thank you for that story too, man.
Yeah, man, it was cool though. It was good times.
That's dope. I feel like every night on High Street is a manufactured bar crawl, pretty much, right?
Man, it's crazy. How about McAfee? McAfee hit that thing for the spring game. Man, he went to every stop imaginable. I had obviously to work that next day, but Friday night we went to dinner and it was about 11 o'clock and they were heading that way. And I was like, man, I cannot be the person and coach I need to be on Saturday if I go that direction. So same thing. I had the Irish exit.
Yeah.
I had the Irish exit. I had a 6:30 a.m. staff meeting. We were dialed in. We had a huge recruiting weekend. So we had to be right and tight. Well, I texted McAfee. I said, man, we got a team meeting at 10:15, whatever it was. We'd love to introduce the coaches in front of everybody. So Pat White was there, bright-eyed and bushy-tailed. Pat was very responsible on Friday night, Pat White. Well, McAfee texted me at about 10 and said, hey, I'm up. We're going to get there. So missed the meeting. The goal team didn't get to meet the head coach before the game. So warm-ups start on the field at 11:10. McAfee walks out there with the coffee and a Gatorade at 11:06 and says, all right, let's put the ball down and play. So I think he hit every establishment open on Friday night and made some old school memories that I don't think he's built for anymore, but he had a hell of a time.
Yeah, man, I know it was cool seeing him. And so we got 2 more questions. I know we're getting close to that time, so we got 2 more questions for you.
Coach, I gotta ask you because you kind of touched on it with McAfee. One, how cool is it having him back in Morgantown, participating in the spring game, and just having more W alumni coming back, and which Neil Brown has been super open about having more W alumni come back. And then how was your trip to the Thunderdome? I'm very, very curious. As a fan of production and broadcast, I'm very curious. What was your trip to the Thunderdome like?
Yeah, so with McAfee, we were so thankful to get him back. It had been a long time coming, and I think what we wanted to do that day was just show him that he is always welcome here at West Virginia. And we wanted him to have a great day. We told him, like, whatever you want today to be, that's what we're going to do our best to make it. So I think with him in particular, like, it was just great to get him around our guys because he felt kind of that old school West Virginia camaraderie that, Darwin showed up to when that thing was really rolling and carried into the Orange Bowl teams and all that. Like, he felt that tight-knit group and he felt, he was real pumped up. I think one of our guys got one of our couple players have a house not far from campus, and they may have had one of his cookouts after the game, which was really good for team bonding. So McAfee was pumped about that. And then all alumni, we do try to really emphasize getting guys back because, the groundwork that people laid, some names, obviously, will kind of be forgotten in time until like a moment comes up. Like Darwin Cook, no matter who you ask, they're going to be remembered for that jersey on the wall right there for what he did wearing that all white in Miami Gardens. So like, it's cool to have guys come back and, just a guy, I'm trying to think, like Darren Brownlee came back to the spring game for the first time in a while. Receiver Darwin, like having D Brownlee back and being able to tell receivers like, man, this is this dude from Maryland and what he's doing now, life after football. It's just a great like framework for what our guys can grow into as young adults. So I think it's huge. I think Coach Brown's done an excellent job cultivating that and keeping an open door policy. And then in terms of the Thunderdome, man, I recruit Indianapolis for my area. So anytime in Indy, if I'm there before 11 a.m. when they really start pre-show production, I try to pop over there and see them guys. And McAfee's got an army, man. He's got probably, I'm picturing the desk in my mind. He's got 10 guys that are locked and loaded working for him. They got everything from a weight room. They got their own locker room with a sauna. They got a full basketball court, pickleball court, golf simulator. Man, they got like 3 different production studios. They got the huge stage, and it is full service and it is big business. And I think the coolest thing with that is they're authentic to who they are, and they're just normal dudes that you can go. They got the highlights of the whatever hockey game's on. They're shooting the shit, talking about whoever scored the game-winning goal. So like they're great dudes, and I think McAfee's done a really good job cultivating that with his inner circle. That was cool, but it's always a fun time. When in their old office, I went over there and we played pig one day. Man, they can come up with some crazy shots in those offices. It was fun.
And and then just closing out. I know Jay have a question to close us out, but in terms of being a Mountaineer, what does that mean to you?
It means the people. Like when I think of being a Mountaineer, it's the people that are in this thing with us. I'm sure you can look back on your time and think about all the integral pieces that went into making a wonderful organization, right? So when I think of Mountaineer, I think of the people. I think of people like Miss Lori Rice, who's been around the football program for almost 40 years. I think about, Danny Nealon in the equipment room and all the wisdom he's seen and his equipment guys. I think of Mike Joseph. I just think of the people. Like, I know I'm not the first, and I darn sure won't be the last tight end coach to ever sit in this chair. But I think whoever does, they will feel what it's like to be a Mountaineer, and it's an honor and a privilege to be able to do so. And I just think the people as an entire university program, alumni base, you see the Flying WV and you see the state outline right here, that means a lot to people. And I think that's what separates us. We don't have everything that some places have, but we got damn good people, and where it means a lot to them. So we're gonna, do our best to represent that every day we come to work in this building.
Well, Coach, I think we can all agree on the call here that you, yourself, and your dad are the embodiment of Mountaineers. So we just want to thank you for taking the time and coming on and chopping it up with us, Coach. And
oh man, I do. I hope my players don't catch that High Street story. I may have to send them an edited version.
Oh, no, you good? Yeah, you definitely teetering.
Hey man, High Street is a very necessary, step in a young man's career.
There you go.
Is, absolutely. High Street makes men for sure.
Yeah. Hey, Darwin, what was the spot back in 2009 to maybe 2012? What were we all hitting?
You got Taboo. You got Lazy Lizard. You remember Lazy Lizard?
Yeah. Well, it's Joe Mama's now. I know it is Joe Mama's.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah, I know it is Joe Mama's.
Yeah. My cousins are a little bit older than you, Darwin. They were talking about Lazy Lizard. I was like, I don't know what that is, but there's this really cool bar called Joe Mama's.
Yeah, Joe's great. And Coach, just by the way, before we get you out of here, great time to schedule a recruiting visit, St. Patrick's Day on High Street. Great time.
Oh my Lord, I can only imagine. We'll get some commits that weekend.
St. Patrick's Day or Halloween.
There you go, Halloween. Yep.
Hey, I'll tell you this: we played a noon game in Halloween at UCF noon kick. We landed in Clarksburg, West Virginia, about 8:30. Our guys had a fun night. I promise you that. After the big man down in Central Florida.
Oh yeah, for sure. With the football Yeah. But all right, man. Appreciate you, Blaine.
No, thank you guys very much, man. It was a pleasure, and I look forward to following you guys in this journey.
Yeah, man. Anytime you want to come on, you're welcome, man. Anytime.
All right, man. We'll have to get a little season recap or something going later down the line.
Yeah, we'll appreciate that.
All right, man. Y'all have a good day. Appreciate y'all.
All right.
Appreciate you, Coach Stewart. Want to wish you and the tight end group the best of luck this season. I know Cole Taylor is going to bring Jay a lot of excitement this season, as well as the Mountaineer fans. Guys, hey, episode 1 is in the books. We had our guy Decker on. We had a WVU coach on. First episode. Can you imagine what we got in store next? How you guys feeling? Episode 1.
Man, I'm feeling good, man. It's big time. Appreciate you, Blaine, for coming on, man. You know our connection. You know our bond. You know the love I have for your father. I appreciate everything he's done for me, providing me opportunities to play for the old Gold and Blue. So thank you for coming on the show, man. I know you're busy, especially with fall camp and things like that, man. If you ever want to come back, the door is open. We appreciate you, man.
Well, I just want to, just point out the obvious here. Me and Isaac shared a show for almost 2 years. Who was the best guest that we got?
Shit. We barely had Decker.
Brian Decker. So
Brian Decker and Ben Murray. Nolan Rickard. Shout out to all our old two friends.
Because now I'm getting actual yes, we're Mountaineers, but we had to pay to be Mountaineers. We're getting scholarship Mountaineers. We get the guys we watch. We get the guys we watch. I done made it. You can say we made it. Either way, whether you a regular, whether you a ball player, a star player like Cook, we're all High Street legends when we go to West Virginia, baby. So thanks for tuning in to our podcast, and we got some more to come.